And we have Ganesh Natarajan here. And Ganesh was here. He did a Gurukul session in one of the rooms there, and you should have seen the energy. People were asking questions. He was having fun. And Ganesh is what I would call a truly a multifaceted personality. He's an entrepreneur himself. He's an intrapreneur. He first time I remember seeing Ganesh when it was some Times of India part or something, but he had a bandana on his head and dancing away in the real rain. Actually, this is the theme we have, dancing in the rain. Actually, I've seen you dancing in the rain, and I remember that was many, many years ago. And I'm saying, who's this guy dancing with the bandana in the rain? And then somebody said, he's Ganesh Natarajan, who's really built Aptech. All of you know Aptech and how, if you talk about the revolution of IT industry, how the skills got built. NIIT was there also, but Aptech is something I know is synonymous everywhere, right? So, and he's the one who kind of built it from probably, he was saying earlier, like a small organization to sorts of 700-800 crore, 1,000 crore kind of organization, and everywhere it was known. And then he went on where he's joined Zensar, where he has taken it to, again, a fairly small organization to now over a 2,000 crore organization, and he's seen it all. You've heard him before. Ganesh will talk, and then Ganesh is also co-host for our technology entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs who are made in India, who are not yet been seen, they're coming up, but they're doing something innovative, unique. And Ganesh, being the one of the gurus in the industry, we will kind of showcase them, and then will be followed by Alec Padamsee session. Okay, Ganesh, please. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pradeep. My ambition in life is to sing as well as Pradeep Udas. So hopefully I'll get there one of these days. Has he sung for you guys or not during this conference? He has, I hope. No? Let's cancel the session. Pradeep is the best singer, much better than his better known brother Pankaj Udas. So you guys must hear him, man. Anyway, and I think Pradeep has outlined what the agenda for this session is. It's an integrated session. I'll speak for some time. Maybe I'll try and cut it down to about 10 minutes. And then we'll introduce this panel of extremely bright entrepreneurs whom I had the chance to have a brief chat with earlier. And the basic theme I have is, and this is, when I first came here, somebody said you're doing the MII session. So MII sounded like some spy ring. Then I discovered it means made in India. So maybe it is a spy ring, who knows. And the interesting part is, I've been running companies for the last 20 years, as Pradeep mentioned. But I still remember my first interaction, this was in, I think, 1992, with a young man who actually built this entire industry, if I can give him the credit, Devang Mehta. And Devang and I used to have great fun. In the early days of NASSCOM, literally going around the world talking about India. Recently I was in Alaska on a cruise with my wife, and we got off on this little island called Ketchikan. The minute we got onto the boat, the boatman who has never been out of Alaska says, India, software industry. So I said, yeah, how do you know? He says, no, we all know India is software. And believe me, in 1990s, some of you are too young to know that, nobody knew India in software. Of course, there was TCS and there was Infosys. And I still remember, I remember this very interesting time we had in Germany, I think it was, where Devang and I were evangelizing the whole concept of Indian IT. And somebody asked us a question, saying, so what is so great about the Indian, made in India IT professional that we don't have in the Western world? And I know Devang made it up on the spot, but I love to tell this story. So Devang went off on this long story about what makes the Indian entrepreneur different. So he goes to the story about this big multinational firm which wants to recruit a CPA, chartered accountant. And of course they advertise in The Economist and Time magazine and what have you. And they get humongous, 7,000 applications. If LinkedIn had been there, they would have got 70,000, but they didn't have LinkedIn in those days. So out of the 7,000, they have this international jury which then sits down and says, we're going to evaluate. Finally, they shortlist 3. So they shortlist 1 German, they shortlist 1 American, and of course they shortlist 1 Indian, because India is this emerging economy and they have this CPA application. And the story goes that this big jury assembles and they call the first candidate, who's a German, and they said, can we ask you questions? So he says, sure. So they ask him the question saying, can you tell us what is 2 plus 2? The guy says, what? 2 plus 2? I thought this was an international CPA role. I don't want this job. And he gets up and walks out. So next comes the American. And they ask him the same question saying, can you tell us what is 2 plus 2? Oh, he says, oh, no problem at all. But just give me a minute. And he takes out his latest IBM ThinkPad and gets into Excel and gets 2 and cells. Says it's 4. He said, yes, you have the right answer. But, you know, we have this young gentleman who's come from Thai, Mumbai. So we have to give him a chance as well. So they asked this gentleman, what is 2 plus 2? And this man, 24-year-old chartered accountant from Mumbai, comes very close to the jury and asks them, what do you want it to be? And Devang used to say, this is what you'll get from India. No pat solutions, no thing that if you do this plus this, you'll get this. Whatever we want. And I think it's incidents like this that actually build the services industry. So I was thinking, as the kind of precursor to this interesting panel we're going to have, what do I tell you guys? And the first thing that came to my mind was to tell you that, look, whatever I have seen in the last 20 years has been through so many cycles of change. I mean, they all talk about innovation. Innovation is about all destroying existing paradigms. I've been mentoring young companies and young CEOs for the last 10 years in Silicon Valley, here, in Dubai, believe it or not, in various places. And this is what we always tell them. That don't assume, and I just said this in the Guru session earlier, don't assume that if you have a great solution for the current business problem of the world, that you'll be successful. The ability to be a little more futuristic, evangelistic, and look at what needs to be done in future is, I think, what makes a big difference. I love the question that somebody asked about, okay, so who should we accept friend requests from LinkedIn or not? I have a standard response to myself. Every guy who follows me on Twitter, welcome. Every person who asks me to tries to be my friend on Facebook, I'm really careful because Facebook has all my singing and dancing photographs. And every person who asks me to follow on LinkedIn or become a friend on LinkedIn, I typically choose 1 out of 10 and randomly say yes. Now you may say, how stupid can that be? But I think it works because you have to give life a chance of giving you a new contact. And I still remember about a year back, young lady, never knew her name. She just came up and I said yes. And then she wrote to me and saying, this is such a great chance because I changed my name. I was your childhood sweetheart when we grew up together. So, see, it proves my point. Never say no to an opportunity. My wife is not here, so I'm saying. I'm hoping Right Arrow takes this forward. So what am I going to talk about? Very, very briefly, and I won't get into details at all because we don't have time. I think what we are saying here is that if you look at the way, and I'm only going to talk IT in the first part of this session, I think what is changing is literally everything. So if you look at what's changing in the world of information technology, I think literally where will we work, which is the obvious one. I mean, you can work literally anywhere on the cloud, so on and so forth. Who will we work with, which is the whole methods of collaborating with people across the world, around the world, etc. How will we work? What is the way in which work will be delivered, whether in manufacturing, whether it's in services, whether it's in IT itself, and how will we consume information, which is humongous. We all know that the patterns of consuming information, I think Manu talked about the whole inferencing mechanisms, are all completely changing at this point of time. The point I'm making is that if any entrepreneur is looking at setting up a business, you better have very clear answers to what your customers will answer for all these questions. I think that's going to be important. When we look at where will we work, and I'll just take you through 4 or 5 slides. One is if you look at these areas, I mean, we all have heard about the cloud. Nothing new. We're all building solutions on the cloud. I was chatting with this extremely bright gentleman whom you'll meet in 10 minutes' time, who's built his humongous business using just the mobile phone, and many, many mobile apps and mobile phone businesses are going on. So I think if you look at this, you'll find that all the big success stories we hear of in the last 4 or 5 years, Salesforce, Amazon, Taleo, Make My Trip, I mean, right here in India, which got this $1 billion market cap when they listed in the US just a year ago. All these are born in the cloud. And we must appreciate the fact that we are still probably 5% into understanding the real potential of cloud businesses. So I think that's one area that we need to look at. Who do we work with? I think the whole area of collaboration, social media, etc. Today, in fact, almost 20% of our work as a boring services company is helping retailers around the world, helping fashion designers to think of better use of social media. How can you use Facebook to make money? And I think lots of people are doing it today. So if you look at whether it's sales and marketing, the whole workforce engagement, LinkedIn is just one example. The whole social value chain, I mean, social HRM, interacting with people across continent barriers, etc. So all that is happening. So huge amounts of opportunity for young entrepreneurs to look at new ways of collaborating across multiple media, across geographies, and so on and so forth. This is something that we are seeing all the time in terms of management training. And a lot of questions were being asked earlier on training. I think the future of training is certainly not having more classroom education. It's also not the old e-learning model. I mean, it's really blended learning, where you take the best of what is available, see how you can communicate that better. I mean, this whole area of gaming, which is completely underexploited in our country. I mean, today the gaming industry is maybe a few orders of magnitude bigger in Korea, in China, in Japan, and we're still taking baby steps in that area. My own belief is, if you ask me for one subsection of IT, if I can call it that will grow the fastest over the next 10 years, it's certainly going to be gaming. And gaming for, as I said, whether it's for management education, gaming just for fun, there's so many opportunities there. How do we consume information? This is obvious stuff, so I won't get into this. But if you look at the whole data analytics area, again, if you look at, I mean, as I mentioned, today people are no longer looking at, do we have enough data? The point, again, as Manu was mentioning, there's just too much data out there. And how do we slice and dice and make it available to us? So all these, to my mind, and I've put various companies under that, are just exploding as far as entrepreneurs is concerned. So the second and last point I want to make is, so what does it mean for people like us? People who have already built companies, people who are building companies, people who are dreaming of building companies, what do we look at? This is again the point I was making in the earlier session as well. It just takes 2 cups of coffee to come up with a brilliant idea. There's no shortage of ideas in this planet. Unfortunately, the streets are strewed with corpses of people who came up with a brilliant idea, which was probably better than somebody else, but just didn't have the wherewithal to scale it. And I think the scaling part is what is going to be extremely important for all of you. So I think thinking big, absolutely, because you cannot afford to think small in this environment. Starting small goes without saying. But the ability, as I mentioned earlier, to scale quickly is really what I think successful entrepreneurship is all about. And that's really what I've learned through 20 years. Having mentored some companies and some companies which failed and some which succeeded, I think clearly the entrepreneur who looks at scale and says, this is my 4-year horizon, this is where I'll need cash, this is where I need mentoring, this is where I need more customers, I think that's important. So just a few examples and I'll stop. That when you look at execution, look at Salesforce.com for instance. I mean, I think you already heard Manu talk about LinkedIn. That's another phenomenal example. But I think identifying the big problem, something they did extremely well, and even before an Oracle Siebel combination or an SAP could scale, today it is the best in class. I mean, whether we like it or not, most of us are on Salesforce.com. So I think the ability to identify the big problem, starting real small. If some of you remembered how Salesforce started in 1999, it was a very small software as a service model. And this was after the ASP model had kind of withered away and so on and so forth. And today, $2.5 billion in revenues and growing like crazy, partners all over the world and so on and so forth. If you look at a very interesting scaling model right here in our country, something called Kisan Raja, which is very interesting. And this is very typical of an Indian entrepreneur who identifies a discontinuity that is available in India at this point of time. So look at this one, for instance. I mean, it's really saying that, look, erratic electricity supply. We all know the problems of electricity in various places. So this is a very simple solution they designed. It's a GSM-based solution, has voice alerts. It actually uses whatever electricity is available to generate and to run motors across the village. They started with a very small idea, and this is now seen in the e-agriculture space as one of the largest possibilities that we see here. I'll just take one more example. I have many more here. I mean, this is an express store application that somebody's created, which actually gives very small, the Kirana shop that all of us talk about, and when we worry about big bad Walmart, I think simple applications which enable them to interact, enable them to use the power of multi-channel retailing, etc., etc. Very simple pay-per-use model on Facebook. Recently, and I'll end with this, I mean, I was doing a discussion in the Indian Angel Network, and we had a very bright young company. It's called Auris Networks, which was one of the companies we funded last month. An interesting model, very typical for India. I mean, they want to be in the learning business. And we said, so what is your new unique proposition? The guy comes up and says, look, we are in the video production business. So everybody is already losing interest. So what's so great about video production? And the point they make is, look, India, for the foreseeable future, is not going to have uniform bandwidth, uniform internet access speeds across the country. So he said, our technology is very simple. If you're teaching and you're, let's say, using a soft whiteboard behind you, we will capture you on video, but we'll quickly disaggregate the video. So we'll take your sound separately, your voice separately, your image and your moving images separately, and of course what you're writing separately. So if, let's say, we are beaming this course to some real small village, all we'll show you is one screenshot, one picture of you, and just show the sound. Slightly better bandwidth, we'll show the sound plus the classroom content. In Mumbai and Bangalore and Pune, we'll show the full video. And you can choose, depending on bandwidth availability, to switch between these models. Now, to my mind, it's a humongous idea. Okay, in fact, you'll be surprised. There are 75 of us who have put money into this company. The poor man, I think his biggest problem is going to be managing 75 of us and not building his company. So I'm just saying, opportunities are tremendous. The person who has the idea, and that's why I said made in India means no lack of innovative ideas. We see 3,000 ideas per month just in the Indian Angel Network. The challenge is identifying the people who have the spark in their eyes, who can take it forward and scale it, and of course, giving them the support, giving them the ability to scale that and make it happen. So thank you very much. I just thought I'll give you this little pitch at the beginning, and I wish you all success.